Welcome to episode 486 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Meyers, screenwriter and blogger at sellingyourscreenplay.com. Today I am interviewing Jamison LoCasio and Adam Ambrosio, who have been on the podcast twice before. They're East Coast filmmakers who are always putting together interesting projects. They come back on this week to talk about their recent feature film, which is another anthology of shorts they've put together as a feature film called 7x7. So stay tuned for that interview. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking or sharing it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 486. If you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. Just put in your email address and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks, along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in that guide. I'll teach you how to write a professional logline and career letter and how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. Really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I am interviewing writer-directors Jamison LoCasio and Adam Ambrosio. Here is the interview. Welcome back, Jamison and Adam, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you guys coming back on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Always happy to be on, Ashley.
So you guys have been on the SYS podcast twice before, episodes 457 and 375. So I would definitely recommend those to the listeners. Check those out if you haven't already. We get into your origin story a little bit more, kind of how you got into the business and got to the point where you guys are now writing and directing these feature films. So today we're here to talk about your latest feature film, 7x7. Maybe to start out, you can give us a pitch or a log line. What is this new film all about?
It's about 7 stories about personal crisis, I think is a lot of ways, is the best way of saying it. And so much about, I guess you could say, the human condition, but about people's relationships to each other. And it's about people, really ordinary people in extraordinary situations.
Gotcha. So maybe you can just tell us, what was the genesis? Like, where did this idea come from? What was sort of the genesis of putting this movie together? What was the genesis of this story?
Yeah, so we had made short films. I think we were even talking to you about this last time we were on, for a very long time before we went to tackle a feature. And a lot of the shorts that we had made, we felt had stood the test of time in terms of quality, and we were able to remaster them to some degree in a very simple way. And we wound up sort of noticing, though, more organically, that a lot of the films that we had made were about a pandemic, were about a school shooting, were about nuclear war. And we had sort of touched on all these interesting topics that were either the idea of Lewis, Adam, one of our members of our team, myself. They were all relevant again, or even more so. It was like it was ahead of its time a little bit, each one of these films. So we wanted to put them together in order to sort of celebrate all the work that was done by everybody who had worked on them, because in some cases they were actually student films, even though they don't appear to be. And then beyond that, they were the work of Film Valor, for YouTube or whatever it was. So we wanted to really put them together and celebrate them as being relevant.
Gotcha. So let's just dig into some of these stories, the 7x7 stories. Maybe you can talk about, just from a writing perspective, what do you see the differences writing a short? How long are these? You've got basically 100 minutes to do these 7 stories. So they're going to range from 5 minutes to about 15, 20 minutes. But maybe you can talk about that a little bit, just in the writing of these. How do you approach it differently versus a short versus a feature?
Yeah. So in terms of writing a feature, I feel like we both really wanted to sort of come in concept heavy first. And with the shorts, you kind of have a little bit more room to experiment, I guess you could say. So it is a totally different process. You got to think about what's going to work for the entire 110 minutes, hopefully, or beyond that. So you're looking at structures and outlines and so many other things. What was great about these films is we just kind of took the small idea and worked on what that could feel like in 10, 15 minutes, 5 minutes. And it became very personal, which we then brought into feature filmmaking. So just in terms of writing, these movies were all written one at a time with the small concept of whatever it was, with the relationship of the people in the movie being really the star of the show, which is, hey, what it would be like to be in this situation with these characters. And that's really how we approached it, and then later learned how to write features, which was a totally different thing, it seemed.
Gotcha. So putting this together, did you do any additional writing? Like, you had these shorts completely produced. Did you go out and do any other shooting? Oh, we could use a scene here, we could use a scene there. Or you just took them literally and put them together?
Yes, we actually went in and looked at each one of the movies for everything that we thought would be appropriate at this stage, right? And we did look at them a little bit without taking away from what was there. So maybe we cut some things here or changed some things there. Really, the order was the concern. Like, where does this make sense? And we had talked a lot about the order. One thing that was really redone was the movie called A Thin Layer of Ice, which is about two brothers who are sort of having an argument. It was a very simple idea, had sort of degraded over time. So we had to go back in and like really re-up the files and everything else and actually change them all. So there was quite a bit of work done within that for a long period of time to really sort of bring the best presentation. So they were kept the same, but the order of them and the message was very carefully decided, because we had other films that we could have put in, but ultimately decided these were the right ones.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'm curious, it sounds like you have a pretty good relationship with Film Hub, who is distributing this film. I'm curious, when you talk to them, do you get any kind of pushback on doing exactly what you're doing, taking shorts, putting them together in an anthology to make a feature? And I ask this sort of in the context, I know now it's maybe been a year or two, but like Amazon, I think 2 years ago, they just got rid of all the shorts that were on Amazon Prime because there was so much junky ones sort of clogging up the system. So I just wonder, it seems to me a lot of filmmakers might have arrived at the same conclusion. And I wonder if there's not going to be some pushback ultimately from these services like Amazon that maybe don't want people doing this.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've had a good experience with Film Hub, so far. They've been very transparent in, their processes and what they're doing. And, just like Amazon to be, they delivered and, what they said they would.
And encouraged.
Actually. To tell you the truth, I'd say we've had more energy or more of a push with 7x7 in our last couple of films more than ever.
Yeah. They encouraged. They didn't discourage. They said, hey, this is something you guys should do. And we have so many movies with you. We feel you're the types of filmmakers that we should see more from, I guess is the way. And so that was a level of trust. And they said, hey, 7x7, that's a great idea. Do you want to do this and this? They actually did work. They actually sort of worked with us on that. Not so much the structure.
I think it was kind of, we were talking to our representative and seeing what was actually going to stick. Right. And I think, it was somewhere along the lines of anthology or, these short films really coming hot right now. And, we were always a firm believer, of being sufficient and, using what you have. And we had, as Jameson said, all, some of these files being degraded or, almost being lost to time.
Yeah.
And we said, this is where we, put our teeth on. This is where we started. This is what we've been preaching on Film Valor and whatnot. This was the beginning of it. And we wanted to give it another life, all these, short films that we, did. And it's scary because we watch them, these were done 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And you hear language in them of coronavirus and pandemics, and you're like, good God. And then, nuclear war, and you're like,
it's scary that it's relevant.
So that's why it was important, because we kind of saw, all the signs of the world and where it's going. We're like, we wrote about this, so it only added more energy and more fuel to, the fire that we wanted to bring with 7x7.
Yeah. Had you tried to monetize just the shorts? Like, had you tried to put these shorts on Amazon Prime and into Tubi and those sorts of platforms just as a short?
YouTube? We had them on a couple different things. Yeah, we had them on, we did have them on YouTube, not all of them, but quite a few of them were just test marketed sort of on YouTube to help build an audience and things, which was actually a great way to get introduced to an audience and everything else. And we did also have a deal with DirecTV that was non-exclusive, where we actually released the shorts through DirecTV. At the time we had done that, I think we had done 6 with them, but I don't know if it was exactly these 6. I have to think of which ones they were. It was mostly the same ones, but it was non-exclusive. And that was when they were getting into a channel, which I don't even know if it's there anymore, but they had a channel that was just about shorts, and they played them all day. So we got a lot of play with that actually at that time. I think it was since disbanded, or they don't do it anymore, but I don't know. I won't speak on that. It was a long time ago, I feel like. Yeah.
Gotcha. So what's next for you guys? What do you got in the cooker and the hopper now?
So we're working on a book actually
really?
right now. That's actually just about to be completed, that we're hoping to release, in the summer. It's a very fun James Bond themed book about making movies. It's called The Script Is Not Enough. And it's got 10 to 11, 12 sections about each section of filmmaking. And it's really sort of our philosophy of making films, because it's not that it's just weird, it's just unconventional. And it's a lot of stuff that young filmmakers can look at and say, well, wow, if I don't have anything, either in this situation, oh, maybe I can do what they did.
Yeah.
And when we were coming up, those things were so helpful. So it's a book about
it's a little window into what young filmmakers, independent filmmakers could use.
Yeah.
And hopefully just, enlighten them a little bit of the things, resources around them. Because we found a lot of good resources, that we feel that, we couldn't have, done without them.
Right. And it was a lot of stuff that we wish we were told. We put in this book.
A lot of stuff.
Like there might be someone that reads this and say, oh, if that's what I'm in for, I don't know. But hey, maybe that's positive too. But at the same time, we are encouraging in it, and we talk about the real, like being in the trenches of what it actually means to do it. We're not contacts.
We're not saying, oh, we made a mistake, so you don't have to. We're just saying you're going to make mistakes, but here are some warnings.
Here are some warnings and situations and possible solutions.
A lot of good solutions. And, and a way to just keep things going, I think. Because I think it's been tough on everyone. For independent filmmakers, it's easy to get discouraged today.
Exactly. And that's a book about just like staying with it, even if you have to completely change up the table every single time.
Yeah, it's not written by some 80-year-old person who's done millions of films or whatever. It's two filmmakers, young filmmakers now.
Right. And like, hey, these are here's 4 features and how we made them. And here's how this one was different than that one in the script. Here's how this one was different than that one in the budgeting. And so that's why we think it's valuable, because it's actual tangible stuff. And then of course we're always working on, the next film or the next project for Film Valor or our YouTube channel.
Gotcha. So I'll have to have you back on the podcast when your book is published. We'll have to come back and we can do a deep dive into that and really dig into some of these lessons that you guys have learned. Now, tell me just a little bit briefly about your Star Wars fan film. I saw you guys emailed that out. Maybe you can talk about that. I've never quite, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I've never quite been inspired to go do a fan film like this. But what is your motivation for it? Maybe you can just talk a little bit about the production and then writing it and then ultimately producing it.
Well, I think we've been doing this, for a few years. It really has been just something for fun.
Right.
Jameson and my good friend Matt, who plays the
Mando Man.
Yeah, are bigger Star Wars fans than I am, but I like Star Wars. And we started doing, we did a short little Star Wars thing years ago.
2016?
2015? Yeah. And then we kind of said as a group, oh, what if we do this, as like a little ritual? We do it like, one Star Wars film every year or every other year, or, when we can, films. And it turned out we did what, 3 or 4? 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And this is, the newest one. And it's fun. We do it because, it's just fun. I mean,
and it's funny too, because it's like it's not like it's taken seriously. We're like, really stressed, but it's taken very seriously in the sense that we approach it with incredible detail. So like, it took us like 6 months to do the VFX on that video. And, like that's the type of dedication we have to it. And we were willing to be like, hey, you know what, let's do this. And like, but like, let's do it right. We're going to do spaceships. We're going to do everything else. And it was definitely an overhaul in like VFX and like learning how to do everything the right way. But it was so much fun. I mean, we got to do stop motion. We got to do, models, shooting models and everything, just straight up visual effects. We got to do a spaghetti Western style. So it was all these different things that we had wanted to do for years. And it's just like, in my book, at least, it's like checking off things like, hey, I want to do that. Oh, we did that, And it's a lot of fun to watch.
And we really wanted to make everything bigger and more. We really wanted to like test ourselves. And I made that a point. I think we all made that a point, while we were on set or while we were all, going over the script or whatever that, okay, there's going to be more effects. There's going to be more dialogue. There's going to be more action,
more character.
Yeah,
a lot more.
More music. More choreography with it.
Also,
it was more of just like taking all those things that if you don't have under control, they could start moving by themselves.
And the iPhone.
Yeah. I mean, we used an iPhone. I mean,
and we shot the whole thing in 4K on an iPhone, which was actually not, because we did it in we did it on a DSLR Canon 600D, which is really not the best thing by today's standards, even though it's a good camera. So we said, you know what, we think we can up this with an iPhone, even though it's going to be harder to do. So that was our mentality. So we made that iPhone as beautiful as possible. And that actually had a lot of technical elements to it. Like we went out and bought an anamorphic lens from Moment and like put it on. It actually was fixed onto it. And we shot it in anamorphic. It was the first time we ever shot anything in anamorphic. And so to get that look of like Return of the Jedi, but also the spaghetti Western, and so we really, we're always pushing ourselves in some small ways that are meaningful to us. And we've always found that something positive comes from that. We even got an offer. Somebody wanted to send us gear because we obviously now know what to do with an iPhone as filmmakers. So it's like, okay, so we, so those types of things happen, and we embrace them. I guess we embrace that part of the journey.
And what do you do with it? You put it up on YouTube? Like there's not really any commercial viability to something like this because you don't own the rights or whatever. So it goes on YouTube. It's just part of your Film Valor brand.
Yeah.
So we don't monetize it.
We don't monetize. We promote, like a lot of times we'll run promos on it. Like, hey, we're just promoting the channel. And we've had a lot of people start following us just from those Star Wars things. Like, oh, these guys are interesting. What else have they done? So it's just one of those things. And we got Film Valor up to such a level that we had got invited to go to Sundance from it, which was ridiculous, to be on a panel to talk about how we do films and distribute them a certain way. So we had seen a real tangible value in just doing things for free and putting them out there. And it's also something we love to do. So
we got to stay busy. And, we got to, as I said, cut our teeth in some way.
Yeah, always learning to do things, and like that's what we encourage others to do.
Gotcha.
For no budget. I mean, to tell you,
to tell you
the truth, I think this is the only one of the very few instances is where one of the actors actually put more money into the
for his own costume.
For his own costume.
Yeah, that's true. That's bigger than the budget, frankly. It shot fast. It was shot in like, how quick was the shot? It's like 40 shots in like in
less
2 hours.
Easy.
2 hours. Maybe.
We had one. It was just what, 4 guys, and we had Nicole.
And shout out to our cast because they were excellent. And as non-professional actors, they just went there and said, "Hey, let's do this and have fun, and then let's listen to what they want, but also make it convincing." And Tom Coughlin and Matt Painovich and Dave Lembo all did such a great job, like doing it as not being actors, but staying committed to it. So and we ADR'd the whole thing. Which is another trick. So that was also interesting.
All right. Well, I like to wrap up these interviews. Sounds like you guys got a lot going on. I just like to wrap up these interviews by asking the guests, is there anything you guys have seen recently, HBO, Netflix, Hulu, anything you could recommend to our mostly screenwriting audience?
There's one that I'm going to say, which sounds stupid almost, because we're like genre filmmakers and it sounds weird, but I really like, there's a couple things on Masterpiece that I really love. And I think some of the British shows really have the greatest writing sometimes. And they're so simple, it's about people in a house, whatever else. There's a couple of them I could recommend, but the Durrells in Corfu was an excellent series, and that's something that's not new, has been around.
And where do you find these?
This is on Prime, and then you go to PBS, met with Masterpiece, and then have all their shows. But boy, the Durrells was an extraordinary show, and what a master class in like writing just a family in a house. Like what could happen to them, and like I feel like we can all learn from sometimes how well those shows are executed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a great recommendation. I have not seen that.
Oh, yeah.
So, Adam, you got anything for us? Putting you on the
Yeah,
spot
you
here.
know what? I'm in a time warp, or at least a time bubble. I haven't really watched anything new lately. I would say the last thing that kind of got me thinking, or really just a good story all around, was animation, or a stop motion animation called Mad God.
Yeah.
It's really dark imagery, completely silent.
Oh,
Yeah, think of Nightmare Before Christmas on acid.
it's a good way to
And
describe it. Yeah.
it's
And what was it called?
Mad God,
Mad God.
I
MADGOD.
think it's Phil Tippett. Is
Phil
that his
Tippett,
name?
yeah,
Phil
yeah.
Tippett who did the
And where is that point? Where did you guys catch that?
Oh, I think that was on
It's exclusive on Shudder.
Shutter.
It was exclusive Shudder, yeah. And Phil Tippett's the guy who did all the little visual effects for Return of the Jedi and like a lot of Spielberg and stuff like that. I think he did it like with a really small team for like $60,000.
I think it took him a long time.
And it took him a long
Yeah,
time. It took him like years. So it's
yeah.
yeah.
So
That's
that
a good
was
idea. That's a good choice.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I kind of gravitated to me because it's very similar. Small team, and it's
Mhm.
like he created it from the ground up, and it has its own little cult following.
Yeah.
Which
Gotcha.
I think is really cool because it's a very disturbing.
Any horror fans could get into that.
I think so.
It's really cool.
I think they'll
Okay.
find pieces of it that they'll
Good.
enjoy.
Yeah. So those are some great recommendations. And how can people see 7x7? What is the release schedule like that? And for that, and where is it going to be available?
So 7x7 is available on Prime for rent,
Okay.
and it's available for free to stream on Tubi.
Okay.
Any other content that they want to see from us is available on Film Valor on YouTube, which is really the best home for people who are both filmmakers and just audiences alike.
Okay. Perfect. So I'll get that Film Valor. And I always just wrap up the interviews. Is there any Twitter, Instagram, you guys use any of that? We can put those in the show notes as well.
Yes, so we're Film Valor on Instagram, real
Okay.
easy. Film Valor on Twitter.
Perfect.
Film Valor on YouTube. Film Valor on Facebook.
Yeah, TikTok, yeah, Snapchat, you got it all.
No TikTok.
We don't have TikTok.
No,
yet.
yeah, but all those, yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on and talking to me today. Good luck with this film and good luck with all your future films as well.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be on. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. It's good talking to you. Bye.
Likewise.
SYS's From Concept to Completion screenwriting course is now available. Just go to www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/screenwriting course. It will take you through every part of writing a screenplay, coming up with a concept, outlining, writing the opening pages, the first act, second act, third act, and then rewriting. And then there's even a module at the end on marketing your screenplay once it's polished and ready to be sent out. We're offering this course in 2 different versions. The first version, you get the course, plus you get 3 analyses from an SYS reader. You'll get 1 analysis on your outline, and then you'll get 2 analyses on your first draft of your screenplay. This is just our introductory price. You're getting 3 full analyses, which is actually the same price as our 3-pack analysis bundle. So you're essentially getting the course for free when you buy the 3 analyses that come with it. And to be clear, you're getting our full analysis with this package. The other version doesn't have the analysis, so you'll have to find some friends or colleagues who will do the feedback portion of the course with you. I'm letting SYS Select members do this version of the course for free. So if you're a member of SYS Select, you already have access to it. You also might consider that as an option. If you join SYS Select, you will get the course as part of that membership too. A big piece of this course is accountability. Once you start the course, you'll get an email every Sunday with that week's assignment. And if you don't complete it, we'll follow up with another reminder the next week. It's easy to pause the course if you need to take some time off, but as long as you're enrolled, you'll continue to get reminders for each section until it's completed. The objective of the course is to get you through it in 6 months so that you have a completed, polished screenplay ready to be sent out. So if you have an idea for a screenplay and you're having a hard time getting it done, this course might be exactly what you need. If this sounds like something you'd like to learn more about, just go to www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/screenwriting course. It's all one word, all lowercase. I will, of course, link to the course in the show notes, and I will put a link to the course on the homepage up in the right-hand sidebar. On the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing writer-director Elizabeth Blake Thomas. Next week, she comes on the show to talk about a new action thriller she directed called Hunt Club, which stars Mickey Rourke, Mina Suvari, and Casper Van Dien. We talk through her career and how she's gotten to the point now where she is directing feature films like this. So keep an eye out for that episode next week. That's the show. Thank you for listening.